You bastard. She slammed the file on his desk, her hands shaking, tears burning down her face. You killed my brother. You sat across from me every single day and you killed him. Seo Junwoo didn't move, didn't flinch, he just looked at her like a man who had been carrying something heavy for 3 years and had just been handed the name for it. Welcome to Afro-Seoul Stories. Like, share, and subscribe. And keep watching, because by the end of this story, you will understand exactly why he killed her brother. And what it cost them both to survive the truth. Adaeze Okafor did not come to Seoul for love. She came with a name. Her brother Emeka came to this city 3 years ago for work, an import arrangement, good money, 6 months maximum. He never came home. The investigation lasted 2 weeks. Nobody looked too hard. Nobody thought his life was worth looking too hard for. She found a name in his files. She spent 2 years learning Korean, building a portfolio, engineering her way into one specific building in the Uedo financial district. She walked into Seo Capital on a Tuesday morning in a burgundy wrap dress, her natural hair pinned up, coils loose at her temples, looking like exactly what she was, a woman who knew 5 languages and had come to use every single one of them. What she did not plan for was him. Seo Capital's building said everything about the man who ran it before you ever saw his face. All glass and dark steel, rising out of Uedo like it had decided the other buildings around it were suggestions. The lobby was the kind of quiet that money buys, controlled, absorbed, not a sound out of place. The receptionist directed her to the 32nd floor. The elevator opened into a waiting area with floor-to-ceiling windows and the Han River spread wide and gray below. Adaeze sat down, crossed her ankles, and looked at the water. She was not nervous. She was something more focused than nervous. Director Park ran the interview. Standard questions, language competencies, experience with high-stakes negotiations, a hypothetical about a contract dispute between a Korean and a Senegalese party where cultural nuance was creating a breakdown. She answered everything cleanly, and when she was done she looked down the long table. Seo Junwoo had said nothing since she walked in. He sat at the far end with one hand resting on the table, looking at her the way people look at things they are trying to understand. Dark suit, collar open one button, a stillness about him that was different from calm. It was the stillness of something that had learned not to move unless it meant it. Which language does Mr. Seo prefer for the rest of this conversation? She asked. The room shifted slightly. Korean, Junwoo said. She switched without blinking and didn't stop until Director Park closed his folder and said they would be in touch. She got the offer before she reached the street. Her flatmate Yuna found out that same evening. Kim Yuna, 25, junior translator at a firm in Gangnam, sharp as a blade and twice as warm, looked up from her ramen when Adaeze said the word Seo Capital and went completely still. 10 full seconds of silence. Then she reached for the soju. Yuna. Drink first. She poured 2 glasses and pushed one across the table. Talk after. Adaeze drank. That is not a company, Yuna said. I need you to understand that. On paper, legally, yes. But that building, that man. I know what it is. Seo Junwoo runs the Seo Syndicate. His father built it, he inherited it at 27, and in 4 years he has made it 3 times more powerful and twice as invisible. She leaned forward. People who cause problems for that man don't get fired, Adaeze. They just stop being findable. I know. Then why do you look like you've already decided? Because I have, Adaeze said. Yuna looked at her for a long moment. Then she picked up her glass. Looked into it. Put it down and picked up the whole bottle instead. I'm going to need more of this, she said. The first months at Seo Capital were an exercise in patience. She was perfect at her job. Precise, professional, unreachable. She translated contracts, sat in negotiations, filed reports, and in between all of it she watched. Everything. The way the floors operated, who moved where, which doors required which clearance, which filing systems held what. She photographed documents quietly on her phone with the calm of someone who had been patient for 2 years and could be patient for 2 more. He noticed she watched too much. She noticed he noticed. Neither said anything. Then came the Dakar negotiation. Ibrahima Diallo arrived with the energy of a man who had been cheated before and was not going to let anyone in that room forget it. He sat across from the CO Capital executives and switched between French and Wolof in a way that was partly natural and mostly deliberate, testing what was getting lost in translation on the Korean side. Everything was getting lost. He said something in Wolof, layered, the kind of thing that sounded like a pleasantry if you didn't know it and was a warning if you did. The Korean side translator gave back a smooth nothing. Adaeze set her pen down. Mr. Diallo. She said it in Wolof first, clear, holding his gaze across the table. You just said that a hungry fish will agree to the hook. I want you to know that everyone in this room understood you. Diallo stopped. He looked at her properly for the first time. And I want you to know, she continued, in French now, that the man at the head of this table did not build what he has built by being the hook. He is not hungry. He is not desperate. And if you come to this table assuming that weakness is on the other side of it, you will leave with nothing. She paused. But if you come with what you actually want, I think you'll find this conversation goes very differently. The room was silent. Diallo looked at her. Then at Junwoo. Then back at her. Slowly, he smiled, the genuine smile of a man who has been understood for the first time since he landed in Seoul. Where are you from? He asked, in French. Enugu, she said. Nigerian. Yes, sir. He nodded. Picked up his pen. Then let us talk properly, he said. By the end of the session both sides had something better than what they walked in expecting. When the room cleared, Junwoo stayed at the table. He looked at her. What did he say to you at the end? He said he didn't expect to be understood today. And what did you say? That he should have. That fractional shift in his expression, a door opening an inch and closing just as quickly. Good work, he said. He left. She stood in the empty boardroom and looked at the river and told herself firmly that she was only here for one reason. 3 weeks later he caught her in his office. Late evening. The building had emptied floor by floor until it was just the two of them and the hum of the city outside. She was at his filing cabinet, second drawer, moving quickly and quietly. She was good at this. She had been good at this for months. The door opened. She turned. He stood in the doorway looking at her. What are you doing? I was looking for the Afolabi file. I couldn't find it on the shared drive. He looked at her. She held his gaze and didn't move. The room was very quiet. It's in the third drawer, he said. He crossed to his desk, picked up what he came for, walked back to the door. He stopped without turning around. Don't stay too late, Ms. Okafor. He left. She stood alone in his office and pressed one hand flat against the filing cabinet and breathed until her heart slowed. The months that followed accumulated the way dangerous things do, slowly, quietly, until you look up and realize how far you've come. He left tea on her desk once, passing through without comment. She stared at it for 30 seconds before she touched it. A client from a Tokyo firm tried to slip altered payment terms into a contract during a negotiation. She caught it mid-meeting, set her pen down. The liability clause in Section 4 doesn't match the agreed preliminary terms, she said across the table. The client smiled the smile of someone who thought he could manage this. I think perhaps there has been a translation issue. There hasn't. She slid the contract across and pointed. This figure. And this one. Neither appeared in the preliminary agreement signed in March. Silence. Junwoo looked at the client. You renegotiate, he said, or you leave. The client renegotiated. A Japanese delegate at another session spoke condescendingly about her in Japanese, assuming she wouldn't catch the register. She caught every word. She translated his stated position accurately for the room and then said quietly to Jun-woo in Korean, "He also said he thinks you're too young to be running this firm. He plans to use that in the next round." Jun-woo looked at the delegate. The delegate went pale. New desk lamps appeared in the translation suite 1 week after she mentioned the harsh lighting to Miho in passing. Nobody said anything about them. Miho looked at the lamps, looked at her, and returned to his work like a man who valued his peace. He knew she took her coffee without sugar. She had never told him. One evening she brought him tea. She walked into his office with 2 cups, set one on his desk, and took the small table near his window with her own laptop. He looked up from his work. Looked at the tea. Looked at her. He said nothing. She opened her files. He went back to his. The city went dark outside the windows and the office settled into a silence that had texture, not empty, full of things neither of them was saying. At some point he said without looking up, "You don't have to stay." "I know," she said. Neither of them moved. She left at midnight. He was still at his desk. She did not look back but she heard, just before the elevator closed, the sound of him getting up and walking to the window. She found Park Sung-ael's name on a Thursday afternoon. Routine retrieval. Archived internal records from 3 years back. Field Operations Coordinator. Mapo District. The same month Emika died. She photographed the page. Returned to her desk. Finished the rest of her work without her expression changing. In the bathroom she stared at herself in the mirror for a long moment. Finally, she thought. She went back to her desk. One warm evening she was at Chidinma's apartment. Egusi on the stove, candles on the windowsill, music low. This was Adaeze's exhale in Seoul, the one place in this city where she didn't have to be composed or careful or anything other than herself. She sat cross-legged on the sofa with a bowl of food in her lap and her shoes off and she felt, for a little while, like a normal person living a normal life. "How's the job?" Chidinma asked from the kitchen. "Fine." "Fine like actually fine or fine like you don't want to talk about it?" "Both," Adaeze said. Chidinma laughed and came to sit beside her with her own bowl. "That man is fine Sha," she said, the way she sometimes said it, teasing and warm. "I'm just saying." "Chidinma. I'm just saying what I see." She nudged her shoulder. "You spend 10 hours a day with a man who looks like that and you come home and say fine." "Okay." Adaeze ate her egusi. "Don't you have a love life to worry about?" "Mine is boring." "Yours is interesting." Chidinma grinned. "Tell me something." "There's nothing to tell." Chidinma looked at her for a moment and then let it go, the way she always did, easy and without pressure. "More egusi," she said. "Obviously," Adaeze said. There was a company event in September. Formal, crowded, the kind where everyone was performing a version of themselves for everyone else. Adaeze was near the windows with a glass of water when she saw the woman. Korean, perhaps 30, beautiful in the specific way of someone who had always been told so. She stood beside Jun-woo with the ease of someone who had history with him, her hand on his arm, saying something that made him tilt his head slightly in her direction. He didn't smile. But he didn't move away. Adaeze looked at her water glass. She was not feeling anything, she decided. The warmth moving through her chest was irritation at herself for noticing. That was all. She set the glass down and left. Later Miho told her without being asked that her name was Shin Hyori, that they had been something 2 years ago, that she appeared at events sometimes. "I didn't ask," Adaeze said. "No," Miho agreed. "But you left early." She looked at him. He picked up his coffee and went back to his desk like a man who knew the value of stopping while he was ahead. The Busan summit was announced on a Monday morning. 2 days. Sea Resort. Junwoo stopped by the translation suite and told her in passing, pack for 2 days. I need you in Busan. Of course, she said. That evening she sat across from Yuna over dinner and told her. Yuna put her chopsticks down. 2 days, she said. In a hotel. It's work. Adaeze. It's work, Yuna. Yuna looked at her the way only someone who has watched you lie to yourself for 8 months can look at you. She didn't say another word. She just reached over and poured the soju. Adaeze drank it without arguing. The first day of the summit was 6 hours of concentrated, high-pressure negotiation across 3 back-to-back sessions. By the time the evening reception began, Adaeze had changed into a deep green dress, her hair in a high puff, and was ready to eat something substantial and go to bed early. She was at the drinks table with a glass of water when she felt it, the specific wrongness of someone standing too close with too much intention. She turned. Hwang Tae-jun. Daejin Syndicate. Charming in the deliberate way of men who have never had to work for anything they wanted. His hand landed on her arm and stayed. You're Seo's translator, he said, smiling. You were impressive today. Thank you, she said. Talent like yours, it shouldn't be attached to just one firm. His hand didn't move. If you ever considered other arrangements. Junwoo was there. She hadn't seen him move. He was simply suddenly present, standing at her side, and the temperature around Hwang dropped 10 degrees. Hwang, he said. Just the name. Hwang looked at him. The smile stayed on his face, but something behind his eyes recalculated very quickly. He removed his hand from her arm. Seo, he said pleasantly. Just getting acquainted with your staff. I can see that. Junwoo's voice was completely even. Enjoy your evening. Hwang smiled, nodded once, and walked away. Junwoo turned to her. Stay in the main rooms tonight. Don't go anywhere alone. She wanted to say she could handle herself. She looked at his face, completely still, completely certain, and said, okay. He nodded and moved back into the room. She stood there for a moment, looked down at her glass, and realized her hand was not entirely steady. That night she lay on the hotel bed and stared at the ceiling and thought about the 30 seconds it took him to cross that room. The second day's sessions ran long. By mid-afternoon the last negotiation closed and the resort settled into the loose, tired relief of concluded business. Adaeze ended up on the terrace. She just needed the sea, the air, something that wasn't the inside of a negotiation room. She leaned on the railing and let the sound of the water do its work. The light was doing something extraordinary, turning the sea copper and gray in alternating strips, the horizon blurred where the water met the sky. She heard footsteps and didn't turn. She knew his walk. He came to stand at the railing beside her. Not close. A respectable distance. Both of them looking at the water. You handled the afternoon session well, he said. Thank you. Silence. The sea moved. She looked at him sideways. He looked tired in a way she had not seen before, not the composed, armored tiredness he wore in the office like part of the uniform. Actually tired. Something showing through. Do you ever get tired of it? She asked. He was quiet for long enough that she thought he wasn't going to answer. Every day, he said. She waited. I was 27 when my father had his stroke, he said. I walked into that office and every single person in it was waiting to see if I would break. He paused. I decided I wouldn't. And I haven't decided if that was the right choice. She turned to look at him properly. What would the wrong choice have looked like? He was quiet again. The sea moved below them. Leaving, he said finally. Building something that was actually mine. He stopped. He looked almost surprised that he'd said it, like it came out before the armor could catch it. He looked at the water. Starting over somewhere that didn't already have my name on it. She looked at this man. 32 years old. Running a machine he inherited. Saying out loud, to her, on a terrace above the sea, the thing she was certain he had never said to anyone. "Why didn't you?" she asked. He turned and looked at her then. Really looked at her, the way he sometimes did when he thought she wasn't paying full attention. "Because leaving requires knowing where you're going," he said. She held his gaze for a moment. Then she looked back at the water. They stood there until the light changed. Then he straightened up, buttoned his jacket. "Early start tomorrow," he said. "Yes," she said. He went inside. She stayed at the railing for a long time after and felt, without permission, without wanting it, something in her chest come loose. That night she could not sleep. At 11:30 she gave up and went down to the hotel bar. Low-lit, quiet, the kind of place that existed slightly outside the rest of the world. He was already there. Alone at the bar, one glass in front of him, not looking at anything. She stood in the doorway for a moment. Almost turned around. Didn't. She sat down beside him. He looked at her. Said nothing. She said nothing. The bartender came and she ordered water and they sat there in the silence of two people who had, for this one late night, run out of reasons to pretend. After a while they talked. Low, easy, the kind of talking that only happens when the hour is late and the guards have been up so long they've forgotten what it feels like to stand down. "Tell me something true," she said. He thought about it. "I haven't eaten a meal alone by choice in 4 years," he said. "Someone is always there. Always watching. Always waiting to see what I'll do next." He turned his glass slowly. "I don't remember what quiet feels like." She looked at him. "This is quiet," she said. "Yes," he said. "It is." She told him about Enugu. Small things, the market near their house, the way the rains came in June, the translation agency she and Emeka had planned to open someday. She said my brother and left it there and he listened the way he always listened, completely, without filling the spaces she left. "What happened to him?" he asked. Carefully. She was quiet for a moment. "He died," she said. "Here. In Seoul. 3 years ago." She looked at her water glass. "The investigation lasted 2 weeks. He didn't say I'm sorry the automatic way people did." He was silent for a moment, and then he said, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, she said. He looked at her. Something behind his eyes that was almost pain. "That's not enough," he said. "No," she said. It wasn't. They sat with that for a moment. Then he told her about the first negotiation he ever ran alone. 23 years old. The entire table waiting for him to fail. He sat at the head and decided the fear was private information and nobody in that room was ever going to see it. She laughed. Really laughed, the full one, the one she didn't let out often. He looked at her when she did it like it was something he wanted to remember. At some point the conversation ran out and they were just sitting there, close and quiet, the bar empty around them, the sea outside. He turned and looked at her. The space between them was very small. His hand moved across the bar toward hers. Slowly. Like a question being asked carefully. She stood up. "Good night," she said. Her voice was steady. Her legs carried her to the elevator. The doors closed and she pressed her back against the wall and let out a long slow breath. She sat on the edge of her hotel bed and put her hands over her face and stayed like that for a long time. She was on the first train back to Seoul at 5 in the morning. She left a message with Miho. Personal matter. She sat with her forehead against the cold window and watched the sea give way to hills give way to the city and she said to herself everything that needed to be said. She came here for Emeka. She had one job. She was not allowed to sit in hotel bars with this man in the small hours and tell him about her brother and feel safe doing it. She was not allowed any of it. She was almost convincing. Back in Seoul she was a professional. Mr. Seo. On time. Leaves on time. Precise, unreachable. No tea. No late nights. She answered every question with accuracy and volunteered nothing, and when he looked at her across rooms she looked somewhere else. He said nothing about it. But he watched her more than ever, and she could see it costing him something, and she chose, every single time, not to acknowledge it. 3 weeks of this. She found the file on a Wednesday evening. She was in the archives room, a separate floor, dim, rows of metal shelving and old operational files in gray folders, the specific smell of paper that hasn't been touched in years. She was there for a contract from 4 years back. She pulled the wrong box. The label on the folder stopped her hand. Mapo District. 3 years ago. She opened it. Operation Summary. Unauthorized courier interception. Date, the same week Emeka died. Location, 2 streets from where the consulate told her mother the incident occurred. She read the line that said operation completed as directed, target neutralized. She read the authorization signature at the bottom of the page. Seo Junwoo. She read it again. And again. And then her legs stopped working and she slid down against the metal shelf and sat on the floor of the archives room and cried in a way she had not cried since the week they buried Emeka. Not controlled. Not 4 minutes. Not the careful, contained grief she had been carrying for 3 years. This was the real thing, her whole body shaking, her hands over her mouth, the file on her knees, completely and entirely undone between the rows of shelves in a room where nobody could see her. She stayed on that floor until she had nothing left. Then she got up. Wiped her face. Straightened her clothes. Picked up the file. And walked to his office. She opened the door without knocking. He looked up from his desk. She crossed the room and slammed the file down in front of him so hard the sound rang through the office, and she was shaking, her whole body shaking, and her eyes were full, and she was not even slightly, the composed woman he had worked beside for a year. You bastard. The words came out low and trembling. You absolute bastard. He stood slowly. Emeka. His name came out of her like something being torn. My brother, you knew about him. Tears were running down her face and she didn't wipe them. And you, she jabbed her finger at the signature. You signed it. You sat at your desk and you signed off his death like it was paperwork. Like he was nothing. Adaeze. Don't. The word came out like something breaking. Don't say my name. He went still. I came to this company because I knew it had ties to what happened to him. Her voice cracked and she pushed through it. I didn't know it would be you. I didn't know it would be the man she stopped herself. Pressed her lips together hard. When she looked at him again her eyes were fierce and wrecked all at once. You are going to regret this. I will make sure of it. I will destroy everything you have built and you will know exactly why. She picked up the file with shaking hands. He was looking at her with something on his face she had never seen, not guilt, not defense, something rawer than both. Like a man receiving the full weight of something he cannot put down. She didn't wait to see what he did with it. She walked out. She typed the resignation from her kitchen table that night. Sent it. Sat back and stared at the wall. Her phone lit up. His name. A text. I was not aware of what that report contained. I am telling you that plainly. Give me 48 hours. Please. She stared at it for a long time. Put the phone face down. Sat in the quiet of her apartment. She picked the phone back up. 48 hours, she typed. Then I go to the authorities. She set it down and didn't touch it again. That night she went to Chidinma. Chidinma opened the door, took one look at her face, and pulled her inside without a word. Steered her to the sofa. Got her water. Sat beside her and waited. Adaeze told her everything. The file. The signature. The whole year of not knowing. When she got to the end she was crying again, the tired, wrung-out kind, all the adrenaline gone. Chidinma pulled her close and held her. "I'm so sorry, Ada," she said. "I'm so sorry." Adaeze pressed her face into her best friend's shoulder and let herself be held. Junwoo found Park Sung-ail the next day. He pulled every archive personnel record from that operation. He found the field team list. He found the discrepancy that nobody had ever looked for: field team arrival logged at 11:47 p.m., time of death estimated at 11:30. His team arrived after. The operation had been reported as theirs. It was not. He tracked Park Sung-ail to Itaewon. He went alone. Park came out of the restaurant kitchen and saw him and turned immediately to go back through the door. "Sit down," Junwoo said. "I'm not here to hurt you. Sit down." Park sat down at the nearest table. He looked like a man who had been waiting 3 years for this conversation and was terrified it had finally arrived. "Tell me what happened in Mapo," Junwoo said. Park told him. All of it. The field team arriving and finding the warehouse already quiet. Emeka already on the ground. A man they had seen leaving as they came in, a face Park recognized from previous West African distribution dealings. Okafor Musa. Lagos operation, Seoul network. The report had been written afterward to match what was expected. Someone had cleaned it before it went upstairs. "He was already dead when we got there," Park said. "I should have said something." "I know that." Junwoo said nothing for a long moment. Then he went back to his office and put his best men on Okafor Musa. Full research. Every connection, every photograph, every documented associate. He sat at his desk and went through what they brought him page by page. He was 3/4 through when he turned a page and stopped. A photograph. Surveillance image, taken outside a Lagos restaurant 18 months ago. Okafor Musa walking out with a younger woman beside him. A woman Junwoo had seen before, not in a file, not in a report. On a desk. A dinner photograph, pinned near a monitor, 2 women laughing at a table somewhere in Seoul. He looked at the photograph for a long time. Then he picked up his phone and sent Adaeze a text. "I need to see you. Not at the office. Hanok Grill on Mapodero. Come when you can." She almost didn't go. She stood in her apartment holding her phone and told herself she had given him 48 hours, not a meeting. Then she put on her coat and went. He was already there when she arrived. A corner table, quiet, away from the other diners. He stood when he saw her and waited for her to sit. She sat down. Looked at him across the table. "Talk," she said. He talked. He told her about the field team records. The time discrepancy. Park Sung-ail and what he said. He told her about Okafor Musa, the Lagos operation, the Seoul network, the men he had put on the research. He told her what they found. She listened without moving. Then he put his phone on the table and turned it to face her. The surveillance photograph. Okafor Musa outside the Lagos restaurant, the young woman beside him. "That's his daughter," he said. "Her name is Chidinma Okafor Musa." The air left the room. She looked at the photograph. She looked at the face she knew better than almost any other face in this city. She looked up at him. "You bastard," she said. It came out quiet this time. Not like in his office. Different, the sound of something cracking that had been holding for a long time. He said nothing. "You're telling me," she stopped. Started again. "You're telling me that my best friend." "Don't go to her alone," he said. "Please. Let me." She was already standing. Adaeze. She walked out of the restaurant. She was at Chidinma's door in 15 minutes. Chidinma opened it with her usual warmth, starting to smile. Ada, I wasn't expect, and then she read her face and the smile died. Adaeze walked in. Sat down across from her. Looked at her. Your father's name is Okaformusa, she said. Not a question. Chidinma went very still. She sat down slowly. Her face did something small and controlled, a settling, the finding of footing. She was composed. She was not going to fall apart. Ada. Say it. Chidinma looked at her. And she said it. She had known who Adaeze was before they ever met. Her father had been tracking the family after Mapo, watching for anyone who might come looking. When Adaeze arrived in Seoul he flagged it. Chidinma volunteered to handle it. She found the Nigerian community event, she found Adaeze, she sat down next to her deliberately with a plate of meat pie and a smile, and the plan was simple: keep her close, keep her manageable, keep her pointed at Junwoo and away from the truth. The falsified report, Adaeze said. Her voice was completely flat. His name on it instead of your father's. Yes, Chidinma said. Every time I got close to something. Every conversation about the investigation. I moved you away from it. You held me. The words came out quiet and devastating. Last night. I cried on your shoulder about my brother and you held me and said I'm so sorry, and you knew. You knew who killed him. You knew everything and you held my hand. Something moved across Chidinma's face. That crack. Small, real, the remorse she couldn't fully suppress even now. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes were not dry. I grew to care about you, she said. Whatever you think, that part was real. I didn't ask you that. Adaeze stood up. She didn't scream. She didn't curse her. She looked at Chidinma one last time, the warm apartment, the candles still on the windowsill, the woman who had been her safe place in this city for over a year, and the look on her face was something beyond anger. It was the look of a door closing. She picked up her bag. She walked to the door and closed it behind her. Quietly. Chidinma sat alone in her apartment. After a long time she picked up her phone and called her father. She knows everything, she said. A pause. Everything? Yes. One more pause. Then, I'll handle it. She didn't ask what that meant. She set the phone down on the cushion beside her and sat in the candlelight and did not call him back. Adaeze was 3 minutes from her apartment when they came. She heard the car slow behind her and she knew before she turned. 2 men. She ran. She was fast and she knew these streets, and she cut off the main road into an alley, through a gap, came out on the convenience store block and pushed through the door. Lock the front, she told the teenage cashier in fast Korean. Right now. Call the police. Don't open the door for anyone. The boy stared at her. Now, she said. He moved. She was halfway to the back room when the shot came through the front window. Glass exploding. The cashier screaming. She felt it before she fully understood it, a burning, enormous impact in her left shoulder, her whole body pitching sideways. She caught herself on a shelf, went down to one knee, pressed her hand to the wound. Not a graze. She knew that immediately. A real gunshot. The pain arrived in full a second later, blinding, her entire left side on fire, the world tilting at the edges. She got to the back room. Got the door locked. Got her phone out with her right hand. She dialed him. He picked up on the first ring. Junwoo. Just his name. Completely level. Because she was Adaeze and she was not going to lose her head. Where are you? Not a question. His voice was the calmest she had ever heard it, which meant he was something she had never heard him be. She told him the street. The store name. Stay on the phone, he said. Don't move. She stayed on the phone. She heard them outside, moving around the building, trying the front door, voices low. She pressed harder against her shoulder and focused on his voice in her ear. He was talking to other people in fast Korean on the side, continuous, never losing the thread of her on the line. She concentrated on breathing. On the sound of him. On staying present. She counted. 11 minutes. Then silence outside. Then footsteps she recognized. Then his voice through the door. Adaeze. It's me. She unlocked the door and came out, and he was there in the back room of the store, jacket gone, breathing harder than usual. He looked at her, all of her, top to bottom, and when he saw her hand pressed to her left shoulder his face did something she had never seen. The control left. Completely. He crossed to her and his hands were on her face and he was saying her name. I'm okay, she said. You are not okay. It's not. You've been shot. I'm aware. He picked her up. She didn't argue. He carried her to the car and drove to the hospital at a speed that the city of Seoul would not have sanctioned, and she sat in the passenger seat with her head back and watched the streetlights pass and thought, 11 minutes. He came in 11 minutes. She woke up in a private hospital room. The shoulder was bandaged, her left arm in a sling, the specific floaty quality of painkillers doing their work. The room was quiet and the curtains were half open and the Seoul morning was coming through. He was in the chair beside the bed. He looked like he hadn't moved since they brought her in. Elbows on his knees, watching her. When her eyes opened he straightened slightly. She looked at him. How long have you been there? She asked. A while, he said. He stayed. He brought her food from outside because the hospital food was, she told him on the second day, a punishment she had done nothing to deserve. He sat beside her bed with his laptop and worked, and when she woke from sleeping he was always there. She did not tell him to leave. On the second evening she looked at the ceiling for a while and then said, I'm sorry. He looked up. I came into your building to destroy you, she said. I lied to you every single day I worked there. She paused. I'm sorry. He was quiet for a moment. You came for your brother, he said. Just that. No accusation in it. Yes. She looked at him. I also sent the file. He waited. I made a copy weeks ago. Before any of this. I sent everything to a journalist in Lagos, Adaeze. Park Sung-ael's testimony, the payment records, the Okafor Musa network, all of it. She paused. It was already in her hands before your men came for me last night. He looked at her steadily. I didn't need the 48 hours, she said. I had already done what needed doing. I gave you the time because you asked and because I needed to know whether I was wrong about you. And, he said. You found Park Sung-ael in 36 hours, she said. You went alone. He said nothing. I was wrong about you, she said. Something moved through his face. Not relief. Something deeper and quieter than relief. On the third day she looked at him across the room and said, I can't be with someone whose world is the same world that killed my brother. I need that world to end. Not slow down. Not change shape. End. He closed his laptop. He sat forward. He looked at her for a long time. In Busan, he said, you asked me what the wrong choice would have looked like. I said leaving. Building something that was actually mine. He paused. I meant it when I said it. It'll cost everything you inherited, she said. I know. I'm not asking you to do it for me. I know. He held her gaze. I'm doing it because I'm tired of running something I never chose. He paused. And because you make me want to be the kind of man who makes the harder choice. She looked at him. It's going to take time, she said. I know. I'll wait, she said. The story broke 4 days later. Adaeze published simultaneously across Korean and Nigerian outlets. The Okafor network laid out in full, the Seoul operations, the Mapo incident, the falsified CO Capital report, 3 years of cover. Emeka's name in print. Correct. Whole. Told properly for the first time since he died. Adaeze read it on her phone in the hospital bed with the morning light coming through the curtains. She read it twice. Then she called her mother. Her mother said her name. Over and over. Just her name. She cried properly for the first time since she boarded the plane to Seoul. The real kind. All of it coming out at once, the 2 years, the plan, the whole long patient wait of it. She cried until there was nothing left, and then she sat in the quiet of her hospital room and felt, for the first time in a very long time, like something had been put down. Okafor was arrested in Lagos 72 hours after the story ran. International warrant. His Seoul network collapsed within a week. His businesses, the legitimate fronts, the distribution channels, all of it, pulled apart in the investigation that followed. 3 days after the arrest, her phone lit up. Chidinma. She looked at the name on the screen. She sat with it for a long moment, the candles, the Adaeze, the shoulder she had cried on, all of it moving through her at once. She put the phone face down. She didn't answer. 1 year later. The translation consultancy was real. Mapogu, she had chosen the district deliberately, and she felt, every morning when she unlocked the door, that it was the right choice. Small office, warm light, plants on the windowsill, the particular satisfaction of something built from scratch. 2 junior translators she had hired with care. Her degrees on the wall. On the desk, Emeka's photograph. Him laughing in Lagos December light, young and certain that whatever was on the other side of the risk was absolutely worth it. He had been right. CO Capital was legitimate now. It had taken the full year and cost exactly what she told him it would. He had done it without drama, without asking her to witness every difficult step, old partnerships dissolved, the criminal infrastructure taken apart piece by piece, cooperation with investigators that was neither comfortable nor cheap. He paid every cost without complaint and did not make it a story about himself. On a Sunday morning in November there was a knock at her apartment door. She opened it. He was there with 2 coffees from the place 3 blocks away that she had mentioned once, in passing, 14 months ago. He came in. She took the coffees. They sat at her small kitchen table the way they sometimes did now on Sunday mornings, unhurried, quiet, the city still mostly asleep outside. After a while he put his coffee down. He got down on one knee. She looked at him. "I've been practicing this speech for 6 weeks, he said. She raised an eyebrow. "That's all I have," he said. She laughed. Really laughed, the full one, the one she didn't let out often, the one he had been collecting for a year. He looked up at her with the ring in his hand, and for the first time since she had known him Seo Junwoo looked completely, entirely undone. No armor. No control. Just a man on one knee waiting for the most important answer of his life. "Yes," she said. "Outside, Seoul. Gray and gold and enormous and entirely theirs." Emeka's photograph on the desk. Her hand in his. The ring catching the morning light coming through the window. He had come here first, her brother. He had always believed in what was on the other side of the risk. He was right about that. He was right about everything. And that is the story of a woman who came to Seoul with nothing but grief and a name, and left with the truth, her peace, and a love she never saw coming. Never let anyone manage your pain for their own protection. And never underestimate a woman who is willing to wait. Like, share, and subscribe to Afro-Seoul Stories. The next story is coming up soon.